Hello, this is Dr. Michael Greger coming to you live from my treadmill. To answer your questions, I already did a half an hour on Facebook Live, now here on YouTube. I do that every month. If you want to find out when I am answering questions every month, make sure you sign up to my newsletter, totally free as everything I do, at NutritionFacts.org. For those of you unfamiliar with my work, every year, I read through every issue of every English language nutrition journal in the world. So busy folks like you don't have to. I can compile the most interesting, most groundbreaking, the most practical findings, new videos and articles upload every day to my nonprofit site, NutritionFacts.org. Everything on the website is free. There are no ads, no corporate sponsorships, strictly not a commercial, not selling anything. Just put it up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother. New videos and articles every day on the latest in evidence-based nutrition. Oh, what a concept. All right. Let's get to your questions. It looks like there's a whole long list of questions. Remember, on YouTube, you can start listing questions for next month's Q&A in 31 minutes from now for the next time. So you make sure you're at the top of the queue. So you make sure I see your questions. First one is from Felice. What to eat to improve CF, chronic fatigue syndrome? I know I have a bunch of fibromyalgia videos. I think I only have one on CFS, if I remember correctly. It was on cocoa powder, using cocoa powder as a treatment. If you go to NutritionFacts.org and put in chronic fatigue, it should pop right up. Or you look at a list of topics. We have health and nutrition videos on 2,000 topics. If you just go to click on topics and click on C and get to chronic fatigue syndrome, you can see all those I tagged. That's particular one. You know, it's not that I haven't looked. There's just not a lot of literature out there on what diet can do to help prevent, arrest, or reverse it. But I'll keep my eyes out because I know that's a common question. Matt McLeod asks, is defatted peanut powder more or less healthy compared to natural peanut butter? The only ingredient in both is unsalted roasted peanuts. Defatted peanut flour would have a higher nutrient density, more nutrition per calorie, but I wouldn't recommend either. Why? Because of the R word, roasted. I no longer encourage people to toast or roast their nuts. So I encourage people to choose raw, unsalted nuts, seeds, and nut butters and seed butters. So like raw almond butter, etc. You can make your own from raw almonds. And that's because of AGEs, advanced glycation end products, so-called glycotoxins. If you go to my website and type in glycotoxins or AGEs or advanced glycation end products, you can pull up all my videos. So basically, when you expose high-fat, high-protein foods to high temperatures, to dry heating temperatures like broiling, roasting, barbecuing, frying, things like that, you create these toxic compounds. So if you look at the top 20 foods, I think I should list in the book. Number one is like broiled hot dogs, and number two is it's all like, meat. But if you look at these tables, wait a second, what's high protein, high fat? Tofu. If you broil tofu, bad stuff happens. So I encourage people to eat steamed tofu, right? So when I'm at a restaurant, and I can order, and there's like some tofu dish, they're going to fry it. So I said, could I have soft steamed tofu? And then you don't have to worry about it. And nuts, right? So when you toast walnuts, when you toast any kind of nut, you create these AGEs. And so actually high levels, almost, in the same ballpark as these other high-fat, high-protein foods. So we should use moist cooking temperatures, so like 200 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. Anyway, okay. 250? I'd have to look that up. I think it's 200. Anyway, all right. So unroasted peanut flour would be fine, or unroasted peanut butter. Christina asks, who are my contemporary plant-based medicine mentors? Oh, there's some wonderful people that I have tremendous respect for. Let me give you three. Dr. Kim Williams, past president of the American College of Cardiology, Dr. Neil Barnard, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, And there's so many good ones. How about Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn Jr.? Another one of my favorites. Though I've got tons of favorites. All right, Matt McLeod is back asking, is canned tomato paste more or less healthy compared to raw tomatoes? More healthy. So tomato sauce is healthier than tomatoes, unsalted tomato sauce, and tomato paste is healthier than tomato sauce. And so, yeah, canned tomato paste is great. Although, I'd probably use jarred tomato paste because, unfortunately, acidic foods in BPA-lined cans can be a problem. And so even the companies like Eden Foods that doesn't use BPA in their lining, they have to use jarred tomato paste because evidently whatever lining you use that isn't BPA can't deal with the acid. So jarred tomato paste, perfectly wonderful. In fact, I had my last batch of videos. I had a video on tomato sauce and prostate cancer. A whole lycopene series. Check it out. Very fascinating. All right, Jolly Flow. Not a word, I should say, for our young impressionable audience. How do I fight sugar cravings? You fight sugar cravings by cutting out sugar. The same thing. How do you fight cravings for salt? By cutting out salt. In the beginning, everything tastes like cardboard. You're like, oh, I can't live my life like this. But then give it a week and amazing things happen. Your taste buds actually readjust. And so unsalted foods all of a sudden taste salty, and unsweet foods all of a sudden taste sweet. So like regular sweet foods like ripe fruit and sweet potatoes, etc., taste really sweet, but not after, of course, you just eat a bowl of Fruit Loops. That's why you got to kind of re-gauge your taste buds. I actually have a video, one of my sugar videos. Type in sugar. There's actually a study that put it to the test, people that had these sugar cravings. And I believe it was 7 days, which surprised me because I think it takes a few weeks to get to change one's salt sensitivity. In just maybe 10 days, 7 days, surprisingly short amount of time, you can make it such that these unhealthy processed foods are too sweet. It's just like so actually less pleasurable than just normal healthy sweet foods. All right. Marie Kessler asks, could an elevated alkaline phosphatase serum level in an asymptomatic patient with otherwise completely normal metabolic panel be related to diet? If so, yeah, sure. So if that was like your one thing that was off on a metabolic panel, you have to realize that it's there's like a bell curve, right? Where they fit in like 2 standard deviations, and so there's a 5% chance that you just kind of by chance would be over or above one of those. And if you do 100 tests, then odds are it would be unusual actually to have all your values so-called normal, even though absolutely nothing is going on. Doctors don't think about multiple testing. So basically I would get it rechecked to make sure, see how your liver's doing. So basically that's a liver enzyme that should be in your liver cells. If it's in your bloodstream, it means some of your liver cells are dying, dumping it into your bloodstream. There are other liver enzymes and other liver function tests you can check out. What might be in your diet that could do that? Anything that hurts your liver. So it's green extract pills, green tea extract pills. There was a big randomized breast cancer study, the largest randomized controlled trial of green tea extract tablets. I forget what the number was, but one in X many women, I forget, had liver damage to green tea extract pills. So if you just type in green tea breast cancer, she pops that up and you can get that statistic. Okay. MNEGS5 asks, what my thoughts are on IgG food sensitivity testing. None of those allergy tests are particularly useful, unfortunately. So basically, you can look for antibodies to various foods in your bloodstream. And so there's lots of kind of shady doctors that do this and say, you have anti-egg, citrus, anti-whatever antibodies, so you should stay away from those. But the correlation between antibodies you have to foods and symptoms or consequences, there doesn't seem to be much overlap. So we can say you have lots of antibodies to citrus, but you eat citrus and you feel perfectly fine. You wouldn't want to cut out a perfectly healthy food. And whereas other times you can have like a severe reaction to, eggs or something, but have no IgG antibodies to eggs. So that's why those tests aren't very helpful. Besides in kind of research context. In the research context, it's interesting. See if you can find some potential correlations. So for example, in my the video that went up yesterday, my yeast and Crohn's disease, I think they talk about some of these antibody tests, antibodies to yeast, and see if you can see. So for example, Crohn's disease patients have higher antibodies to, I forget if it's IgG, to certain forms of yeast, and that's what started people on the thought of what happens if you take people with Crohn's, remove yeast from their diet, do they get better or not? And you will find out in tomorrow's video or on Monday's video. I forget which one it is. All right. Antoine, DOR, asks, can too much fiber be detrimental to health? Well, too much of anything at a certain level. But as long as you're eating lots of water. So, I mean, the concern would be some kind of bowel obstruction. If you had like particularly fiber supplements, you have like, psyllium fiber or any of these fiber supplements, you had a huge amount, you didn't have enough water, it might kind of coalesce in your bowel. But eating healthy foods, the more fiber, the better, essentially. And so some of the healthiest populations in human history, fiber intakes like, 80 grams a day. In fact, it's looking at, if you look at my paleo poo video, looking at coprolites, fossilized human feces from a long time ago, we can estimate that, we naturally, our physiology is adapted to, 100 or more grams of fiber a day, extraordinary fiber intake. Yet, the recommended kind of daily allowance is only about 30. It's more for men, less for women. And the average intake in this country is about half that, about 16 grams a day. So we desperately need to eat more whole plant foods, the only concentrated source of fiber on the planet. Okay. Veronica asks, what's my opinion on baby formulas? The only formula for health for your baby is human breast milk. And you say, well, why? Well, I've got a video called The Best Formula, I think. And I've got a bunch of videos on the importance of breastfeeding. Check it out on NutritionFacts.org. Lindsay Carroll asks, what are the best foods for your integumentary system? For your integument, presumably like connective tissue? Best foods for connective tissue. Well, you have to have sufficient vitamin C and zinc, etc. But I guess, adequate nutrition. Is there a problem if there's an issue you have? So, for example, you have tendinitis or something. I can talk about foods that help with that, but not sure what you mean in general just by connective tissue. So best foods for that system is best foods for all your systems. A heart healthy diet is the same as a brain healthy diet, same as a liver healthy diet, same as a kidney healthy diet. One diet to rule them all, and it's a diet centered around whole plant foods, our healthiest choices. Tabitha Holst asks essential oils. What am I thought about them? I've got a few videos on essential oils. Lavender oil for migraine headaches, rubbed on the upper lip. I think I do rosemary oil. What else do I have? I don't know. Check it out. If you click on, if you go to topics on NutritionFacts.org and list all 2,000 topics I have videos on, if you click on essential oils, you'll pop right up. Okay. Ziva Saves Dogs. That's nice of Ziva. Asks, my family member was recently diagnosed with breast cancer. And then that's it. I'm sorry to hear that. And so there's actually good data now on breast cancer survival, not just on preventing breast cancer, but what one can do to improve one's survival. There's randomized controlled trials of things like low-fat diets and exercise and weight loss and all the sorts of things you can do with soy consumption to reduce one's risk of breast cancer recurrence and improve survival. So if you just type in breast cancer survival on NutritionFacts.org, all those videos will come up. I got a bunch more coming out. We Photo Gal asks, book tour, question mark, question mark. I will be doing a book tour after my next book, not my cookbook, my next book. So cookbook's coming out this December. I'm excited about that. In fact, I just heard from the publisher right before going on this call that we're going to the second printing. This is going to the second printing 1, 2, 3, 4 months, well, 3 months before publication. That's pretty exciting, just because of all the pre-orders from big book dealers. So that's very cool. So the How Not Die cookbook's coming out in December. I won't be doing a book tour, or maybe a very limited book tour, going around to PBS stations to plug the new PBS special. But I'm going to spend the next year writing my next book, How Not to Diet, on weight control. And then I'll be spending a year on the road and, do 200 cities like I did last time, and hopefully come to your hometown. Although I am ending up speaking a lot more than I'd like to these days. Just booked a new date for California next week. I'm going to New York later next week. A couple more dates. So still doing a few dates, but not full-time on the road until 2019 at the earliest. Okay, what do I think about intermittent fasting to assist in weight control? How cool is that? I am doing a whole series of videos, got a 4-hour at least webinar coming up on intermittent fasting, water-only fasting, chronic caloric restriction, and ketogenic diets, all of which kind of have a cross-lapping Venn diagram, and talking about the pros and cons of intermittent fasting, whether alternate day eating, we have a fast followed by a feast day, or 5-2, where you fast completely or partially 2 days a week, or 1 day a week, or 5 days a month. There's all sorts of interesting studies. Originally, we just had these small uncontrolled studies, but now, finally, in fact, just this year, huge studies, well, huge by these kind of standards, I'm looking at randomized controlled trials where we actually put people eating the same number of calories, but daily caloric restriction, so like 500 calories less every day, versus, every other day eating, 25%, and then 100%, 25%, 100%. So it all basically adds up to the same amount, or maybe 150, 100%, 50%, then it comes out to 75%. Anyway, same number of calories, but intermittent versus not, and then looking at all sorts of interesting intermediate risk factors. So videos, probably about 18 videos on their way, and we'll do a whole big webinar about it. And that's actually what I'm working on now, and have 1,000 papers that are juicy, and am churning through them as we speak. Luke Harrison asks, are enemas good for you? For if you don't need them, no. I mean, it's a medical procedure that in some cases, like a fecal impaction or something, but enemas are, I don't know of any data suggesting that enemas, just for kind of the heck of it, is juicy. JF asks a personal question about my private life, and I'm going to skip that one. Antoine asked, do I recommend intermittent fasting? Oh, we just did that one. Okay, the next, SB Art asks, hi, Dr. Ray, looking to remove myself from requiring Crohn's medications, is it possible to get off the meds? Well, so it would depend on your disease process. So, for example, one of the most effective interventions to date, diet, surgical, or otherwise, or pharmacological, is a plant-based diet. This Japanese study I profiled in my video on treating Crohn's disease with diet. And the question is then, at what point does one remove some of these prophylaxis meds? If, for example, you go years without a flare, that's something you just got to talk to your doctor about, who have a better idea. Looking at some, you can look at some biomarkers of inflammation, just to see if they want to risk pulling you off some of these safer prophylaxis meds. Okay, Antoine is back. Should men use chia instead of flax seeds? No. Antoine is presumably talking about the phytoestrogens, the lignans in flax seeds. That's why you want to eat flax seeds. There's about 100 times more lignans and most other plant foods, and that's why flax seeds make an appearance on the Dr. Greer's Daily Dozen, which is all the foods I encourage people to get in their daily routine, available in a free app on iPhone and Android, so you can check off all the foods to make sure you get it. And one of those is a tablespoon of ground flax seeds to make sure, men or women, you get it into your diet. And to Philip asks, what can one do to lower pulse? Other than exercising more or eating more pulses? A very good question. So I was about to say, eat more pulses, but you beat me to it. I think, are all those videos up? Let me see. I have a whole series of videos on reducing one's heart rate. I believe they're already up. Yeah. I think I still, I stopped right in the middle of that one in the last round. So there's actually more science. I just haven't turned those into videos yet. But yes, you can exercise. You can eat legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils. And there's other things you can do, and I'm going to do videos about them. I just kind of got caught up in the middle of that and was not able to finish my last year's batch of heart disease videos because there was so much on heart disease. But I will catch up. Don't worry. All right, Antoine is back asking how many grams of fat do I recommend to eat daily? It's not the amount of fat, it's the source of fat, right? So it's like, how much lard do I think you should eat? None, ideally on a day-to-day basis. How many walnuts should you eat? An ounce of walnuts would be fantastic. A little handful of walnuts a day. Actually, that's part of my daily dozen. And so remember, food is a package deal. You can get calcium in milk. You can get, protein in pork, iron in beef. But what about all the baggage that comes along with that? Whereas getting calcium from low oxalate dark green leafy vegetables, for example, then the baggage you get is the potassium and the fiber, the folate, and all the wonderful things. So you get a bonus instead of baggage. And so that's why I do encourage people to eat whole plant foods, high fat, low fat, whether avocados, nuts and seeds, whole plant foods. And there's some certainly foods that are better than others. So walnuts are probably the healthiest nut, etc. And I've got videos on all that. All right. Antoine asks, should we take vitamin D supplement all year long? If you're not getting adequate vitamin D exposure, absolutely. But if during the winter months you're out, at your lunch hour, or you work outside and you're getting baked in the sun all day long, you don't need to take vitamin D supplement. If you're at a latitude at which your skin is actually making vitamin D. But if you're stuck inside all day during the midday hours, doesn't matter where you live, you will not make sufficient D. So I encourage people to take, not getting sufficient sunshine, 2,000 international units a day, which is what I do because I'm inside making videos for everybody. All right, Choo Choo's channel asks, new nutrition, wondering if there's anything about, to eating for your blood type. Is that pseudoscience? Yes, it is pseudoscience. But don't take my word for it. Never take my word for anything. Look at the science. And that's what NutritionFacts.org is all about. So if you just put in blood type diet into NutritionFacts.org, we'll pull up one or two videos that I did where people actually had the patience to go through the book and pull out all the craziness. I actually did that with Dr. Gundry's new Plant Paradox book. Typically, I try to stay away from lay publications, just because there's 100,000 peer-reviewed English language nutrition journals and medical literature every year. I don't have time, but so many people were asking me about this lectin issue. That if you look at my blog this morning, I have a list of all the videos coming up on NutritionFacts.org. You can see I've got a bunch of lectin videos and specifically talking about Dr. Gundry's book and avocado videos, all sorts of good stuff coming up. You can actually watch them right now if you can't wait. If you don't have the patience to wait a few months while they all pop up for free on NutritionFacts.org, you make a donation to NutritionFacts.org. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and you can watch it streaming live right now and see them all. And again, that's the blog today. And you would have heard about it last week if you were signed up on the Nutrition Facts newsletter, which is free, like everything else, at NutritionFacts.org. Okay. Light Dark 00 asks, do you stay walking on a treadmill for the half-hour break between Facebook and here? I'm on my treadmill all day long. I walk an average of 17 miles a day, although in this case, no, I was out taking the dog out in my half an hour. But normally, well, so I was walking, but just not on my treadmill. Antoine, can too much fiber intake? Oh, we talked about that. Okay, Light Dark 00. Go out in the sun, get free vitamin D. Yes, but then I can't see my laptop. The glare on my laptop, I can't get any work done. So, anyway, Zia Saves Dogs is back. She says she believes her Kaiser oncologist thinks the studies Kaiser is following are better than the smaller studies I am reading. Okay, well, you have to, yeah, this is a very common, kind of frame of reference coming from, kind of traditionally trained docs, is we're used to, any doc who's familiar with the medical literature, sees these massive studies, like literally tens of thousands of people. In fact, even randomized controlled trials looking at thousands of people, is very kind of standard. These are very expensive studies, millions of dollars, and they're all funded by Big Pharma or our taxpayer dollars in support of Big Pharma. And you need to have that many people because you need to, otherwise you cannot get a statistically significant difference because too often the new drugs that are coming out have so little benefit, certainly compared to drugs we already have on the market, that you need massive amounts of people to show that teeny little, to show a 2 millimeter of mercury difference in your blood pressure. So to see if people's average blood pressure goes from 140 to 138, you need a huge number of people because it's just natural variation. And so when you have minuscule benefits, you need huge numbers of people. But when you have massive benefits, then to get statistical significance, God, you could do it with 10 people. In fact, some of the most, I was just looking, there was this famous study that changed all of medical practice on treating severe hypertension with drugs, was based on a single study. I forget, it was like 100 people, where they just followed them out. Half got drugs, half didn't. And of course, half that didn't with sky high blood pressures are all dropping dead. And that's it. That one little study changed all the practice just because it was such a huge difference. You didn't need thousands of people. People were dropping dead. It was so obvious. Basically, if you take, if I waved a magic wand over 2 pigs and they started flying away, someone would say, yeah, no. To see if that's a really magic wand, you need 1,000 pigs. 2 pigs, that's ridiculous. The pigs just started flying. In all of history, no pigs have ever flown. So something is going on, right? Louis Pasteur's rabies vaccine, 1 person, 1 kid, N of 1, changed everything. Basically, no one ever survived rabies, 100% fatality rate until this kid got bitten and they came in with rabies. The Louis Pasteur gave him the rabies vaccine, and first person ever on record to live. 1, N of 1, 100% fatality to 0% fatality. The kid lived. And so all of a sudden, we have a rabies vaccine, right? Do we need 1,000 people? No. In fact, it would be unethical to randomize people. Once we knew we could go from 100% fatality to 0, we'd be randomized people to their deaths. So with super powerful interventions, some of which are like these lifestyle interventions, which can reverse heart disease, how big you need to show these really remarkable, impactful effects. So it's really just because of their big pharma upbringing that doctors think we need these huge studies. It's only because the benefits are so itty-bitty for many of these drugs for chronic disease. Okay, sorry for the rant. David Noble asks, have I had a chance to review the recent Lancet research? So in fact, that's this week. It's like in the news everywhere, everywhere. So just had a chance to skim it. I'll do a video about it. It's these 3 papers published in the Lancet this week. The Lancet is one of the most prestigious medical journals on the planet. So definitely something to take very seriously. It was an epidemiological study that followed cohorts of people in all sorts of different countries, more than a dozen countries, and came out and suggested that mortality was highest among people eating high carbohydrate diets, and saturated fat consumption in these populations was found to be protective, which is kind of topsy-turvy to kind of, what we've understood in nutrition, but the scientific consensus over the last few decades. But you can imagine, the media loves that, to jump on that. Everyone likes to hear good news about the bad habits. So, I just was able to skim it, but basically, you have to say, well, okay, what are people actually eating? So these countries like Bangladesh, for example, these are impoverished countries where their carbohydrates are not coming from healthy foods; they're coming from refined grains, like white rice, for example. So if you center your diet around white rice, that's not necessarily or other refined carbohydrate foods. That's not healthy. I mean, what would have been nice if they actually looked at whole plant food sources, healthy forms of carbohydrates like fruits, vegetables, legumes. Well, guess what? They did. That's one of it's weird. There's 3 studies published about the same study in the same issue of Lancet, and you only hear about one of them in the media. Well, the other one was looking at fruits, vegetables, legumes. Guess what? What are they? They're packed with carbohydrates, or at least certainly fruits and legumes are, and all 3 were found associated with lower total mortality. I mean, more fruits, vegetables, and legumes you eat, the longer you live. So, okay. So it's these refined, junky carbohydrates. So that could certainly explain that. And then the saturated fat finding sounds to me like confounding effect. So you think like Bangladesh. I mean, where is saturated fat found? You think typically kind of meat. In many countries is kind of a leading source of saturated fat. Well, in Bangladesh, who's eating meat? Rich people. I mean, well, not necessarily rich people, but people have enough money that they're not living off of, on the cheapest, commodity foods like white rice. And so they have more access to healthcare. There's all sorts of reasons why people in higher socioeconomic classes have better mortality and morbidity statistics. And so I believe they tried to control for that, confounding by looking at education status and things, but that's potentially a huge confounder. Basically, I got to look at the studies more, and we'll do an in-depth analysis or make a video about it and put it in context. But I don't know, it was exciting to see the study. Anyway, time is up. Have a fantastic, wonderful month. And I will be back next month for questions on both Facebook and YouTube. If you want to know when and where, then just sign up for my newsletter at NutritionFacts.org. Thanks again.